Hello, one and all. It's my view of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, Chapter 103, Inhumanity. And I think that's a fairly accurate title, given this chapter confirms once and for all that Six is an utter and complete monster. I mean, seriously, I was expecting him to blow up his hands to escape the electric shock handcuffs. What I was not expecting was for him to liquefy his entire body and then reconstruct himself standing next to the detective. And apparently the detective wasn't expecting it either. I mean, something I love about this chapter that I didn't even realize the first time I read it was Six is moving so quickly here, the detective isn't even realizing. The detective isn't even seeing that he moved. He still has his gun pointed at the ground where Six was laying for like 5 straight pages. Oh my god, this man's speed is terrifying. Oh my freaking god, this man's speed is terrifying. And I think this chapter also confirmed that Six will not be taken in alive. I mean, his body is made up almost entirely of these bomber cells that he is free to shape and twist and morph into any form he wants. I'm pretty sure even his clothes are made up of those bomber cells. So yeah, that's bad. That's really, really bad. I mean, he does say that Midnight's quirk would put his brain asleep, and it's his brain that's controlling the bomber cells, so that would be able to stop him at least temporarily, but Six can only stay by his side for so long, and I can't really imagine, prisons would be able to restrain him all that well. I mean, maybe they could keep him constantly sedated, but that doesn't really seem like a realistic option, so yeah, I think Koichi needs to kill him. I think Koichi needs to put him down, or as he says, you should have aimed for the head. Oh my god, the glowing knuckle is a line that's just such an utterly obvious Avengers reference, and I freaking love it. I freaking love it. I mean, all of My Hero Academia is basically inspired by American comics, so it makes sense, they'd quote the biggest comic book movie ever. But I can't help but feel like Koichi is going to face some major repercussions if he does end up killing Six. I mean, yeah, Six is a dangerous terrorist who's threatening a whole bunch of innocent lives right now, but Hero Society is incredibly rigid. I mean, back when Deku, Ida, Shoto stopped the hero killer, without even killing him, just using their quirks to stop someone who's trying to murder someone else, they were told they'd basically be, arrested, detained, thrown in jail, something awful would happen to them if they didn't allow the whole thing to basically be swept under the rug, and they were heroes in training. Koichi is legally a villain who's on the run from the police, so yeah, much different circumstances. I really don't think this is the kind of thing they could just sweep under the rug, so that'd be bad. That'd be very, very bad. I mean, that all being said, though, I don't think Koichi would mind, even if they threw him in freaking Tartarus, which I would absolutely freaking love to see based on where the main series is right now, but I don't think he'd mind it because, he did what he had to do. He accepted the consequences if it meant saving the girl he cared about, saving the girl he maybe sort of kind of loved. Oh, I'm very excited to see how this all plays out. But anyway, rest of the chapter, I freaking love that Six finally realizes, wait a minute, Soga has really bad aim. If I just stand a little bit closer to these police officers, he can't shoot at me. Who'da thunk it? I thunk it. I said in my last video, I was wondering why he was standing so far away from them when it was so utterly obvious that Soga's aim was freaking awful. But speaking of aim, I'm very curious about this one line from O'Clock. He says that Koichi's Shurigo Blam Blams have low velocity, but they track their target. They track their target? Koichi's attacks can track their target? Is that something new? I definitely don't remember that being in the previous chapters. I mean, it definitely makes him, a whole lot deadlier if he's able to basically shoot an attack and have it go after the target even if he doesn't aim it properly. Very, very curious about that. But anyway, then Six runs away. And then we actually get to see what's going on from a, outside perspective when he's talking to himself. And, it's weird. It's really, really weird. And he basically just goes, we should do this. No, we should do this. We should do this. No, we should do this. And, Soga's companions are wondering, okay, is this dude completely and utterly out of his mind? I mean, yes, he is. And that seems to be, the conclusion most of the internet has. Oh, Six is just completely insane. He just talked to himself, just like a split personality. But I honestly don't think that's the case. I mean, yes, Six is utterly and completely out of his freaking mind, but his alternate personality, O'Clock, seems too calm, seems too well-reasoned, seems too rational to be Six's alternate personality. Especially when he makes those comments about this is all just a test for the new foot soldiers, and then properly evaluate Six's psychological state. Six's alternate personality should not be able to accurately judge Six's psychological state. That just seems insane. Well, Six is insane. So my theory instead is that O'Clock is actually All For One. Somehow he's managed to implant part of his memory, part of his consciousness into Six's body and is able to, control him, manipulate him through that somehow, some way. I mean, All For One's presence has been one of the biggest mysteries in this series up to this point. Clearly, he's involved somehow. Obviously, he created Six. Obviously, he gave Six O'Clock's quirk, but everything after that is definitely a mystery. I mean, the instant villains are certainly the kind of thing All For One might want to invest in. But Six's whole deranged plans to want to become a pro-hero, I mean, that just seems so utterly, utterly stupid. I don't think All For One would have thought of it or even allowed Six to do it, so curious about that. I mean, maybe Six went rogue, essentially, escaped from All For One's control, and is doing things his own way, his own reasons, for his own purpose, for his own ambitions, to become a hero as he always dreamed to be. I mean, that would make a certain amount of sense, and maybe after his big fight, with Koichi where he was burned by Endeavor, he was recaptured by All For One, who managed to implant a portion of his consciousness into Six, and that's, o'clock. That's how he's managing to manipulate and control him now, keeping him on sort of a leash. I mean, that makes a certain amount of sense to me, but I'm really not sure about that. Let me think. Do you think Six is being controlled? Do you think Six is just utterly, completely insane? Both very, very likely. But then Koichi runs away, or I guess flies away is the more accurate term. Not gonna lie, when I first saw this panel, I really truly thought he was carrying Pop in his arms. He was trying to escape, bring her to another hospital where she'd be safe, while, Six chased after them, be this whole big cat and mouse game. That was not the case. Instead, he was following detective orders to go call All Might, which, is a really, really good idea. Which then raises the question, why did he come back? I mean, a lot of people tend to be assuming that he just completely and utterly disobeyed the detective's orders, which would make a lot of sense. I mean, by the time he called All Might and All Might showed up, Six could have murdered every last person in the hospital just that fast. Plus, Koichi is a freaking vigilante. Disobeying law enforcement is kind of their bread and butter. And, the detective, he's kind of sucked this arc, so I wouldn't really blame Koichi for disobeying him. But I think something else is going on here. I think Koichi did call All Might somehow. And my first idea was, Koichi is basically a sharpshooter or sniper at this point. Maybe he just fired, a full blast shot in the direction of All Might's building. He broke one of his windows. All Might be able to track the blast back to its source and realize, oh, clearly someone's calling for help back in the Naruhata ward where there's that major blackout. I should go help them. Another possibility is that Koichi, just used his cell phone to call the All Might agency and report what was going on, which, that would actually make a lot of sense. I mean, let's not forget that the Proto-Nomu are basically blocking all cell signals coming in and out of Naruhata so they can't, call for help, but if Koichi just went really, really high in the air, he'd be outside their range and be able to call for help that way. That actually makes a whole bunch of sense. If that's the case, though, how quick is this fight going to be between Koichi and Six? Because if he called All Might, All Might can literally be here in like 30 seconds. I can't imagine this fight's only going to last 30 seconds, so maybe, we call the All Might agency, they're going to have to, process the information and say, okay, we need to actually check on this, make sure it's accurate, make sure the information's true, maybe send another hero in first to make sure, oh yeah, this is actually really, really bad, we need all the backup we can get, send in All Mights. Though there are still a whole bunch of other Nomu running throughout the city, maybe All Might's going to want to stop them first and then come to fight Six. But we can't forget this is happening after All Might's injury, and it's late at night, so it's very likely he's already used up all his hero hours for the day. So, All Might can't come in, All Might can't come save the day. I mean, yes, you could call other pro heroes, but they're much, much slower than he'd be, so curious, very, very curious about that. I mean, it definitely seems like this is going to be the big final fight, Koichi versus Six, and I'm so freaking excited for it. Koichi, not so much. He stuttered when he says, hi there. Oh, that is not a man burning with confidence. That is a man who's fully aware of the fact that there is a very good chance he is about to die. I mean, he knows that Six is super dangerous, super fast, super deadly, and could very easily kill him, so yeah, Koichi doesn't have a whole lot of faith that he can actually win this fight. It seems like he's just trying to buy as much time as he can for the pro heroes for All Might to arrive and help save the day. But let me think all this down below. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? Koichi versus Six? Who is going to win, and how is Koichi going to go plus ultra? I mean, he's gone plus ultra like a dozen different times throughout this series, finding new ways time and time again to make himself stronger, to unleash new aspects of his quirk, to find ways to enhance and strengthen his quirk. So I'm absolutely convinced he's going to find another way to do it in this fight, and he's going to find a way to probably, just put a very large hole in Six's head, and hopefully that puts him down. Hopefully that kills him. But when that happens, I can't help but feel like he's going to go to Charters for at least a couple years. I mean, he is a villain. He's going to use his quirk to murder another villain. That's very, very much illegal, and not the kind of thing you can just sweep under the rug. Plus, they know his secret identity. They know who he actually is. They know he's Koichi. They know where he lives and all that. So, yeah, there's no real going on the run for him. But let me know down below what I think is going to happen next. What was in the box? The box that Soka found in Koichi's apartment. What was up with that? I mean, I still feel like that's going to be some sort of big final weapon that he's going to use to take down Six somehow, some way. I don't know, but be sure to like and subscribe to my next video. And until then, peace!